Second language acquisition. Some children grow up in such a social environment in which they learn more than one language. They are exposed to the languages in a similar way. So they acquire the second language the way they have acquired the first language. These fortunate people are called bilingual. They can use the language with same ease. But most of us are not exposed to the second language until much later in our life. So our ability to use second language is not as good as of those who were exposed to that second language in a very early age. Even after years of study, our ability rarely matches ability in our first language. So the first language has supremacy. Second language cannot come near to it in our ability to use first language. There is something of an enigma in this, since there is apparently no other system of knowledge that we can learn better at 2 or 3 years of age than at 13 or 30. This is a very surprising factor that at a very early age we can learn this complex phenomenon, which is our mother tongue. But when we try to learn the same later in our life, we find it very difficult. Whereas all other bodies of knowledge are learned later in the year. They cannot be understood in the early ages. A number of reasons have been suggested to account for this enigma, and a number of different approaches have been proposed to help learner become as communicative in a second language. So a number of approaches have been used or offered that people could be as good as they are in their first language. And obviously the reason have been given that why people find it difficult to learn a second language later in their lives. Second language learning, a distinction is sometimes made between learning in a foreign language setting. For example, if we take Japanese students who are learning English language living in Japan, so they are learning a foreign language. But if the same body of students go to America and there they learn English, so then they are learning a second language. In the other case, they are simply trying to learn another language. So the expression second language is used for a foreign language as well as for a second language. For both situations, this term is used. Acquisition and learning. There is a very important difference between these two terms. The term acquisition is used to refer to the gradual development of ability in a language by using it naturally in communicative situation with others who know the language. So a child uses or start learning a language with the help of the people around him. So he is actually acquiring the language. Whereas later in life, when we try to learn a language and there are no people around us as they are around us when we learn our mother tongue, so that is not acquisition, that is learning. So a more conscious process of accumulating knowledge of the features such as vocabulary and grammar of a language, typically in an institutional setting. So when we try to learn a second language, first we learn the rules of the grammar and then vocabulary. So this is a learning of the language. This is not acquiring a language or acquisition. This is learning. This learning is similar to learning of mathematics in the classroom. Those individuals whose L2 exposure is primarily a learning type of experience tend not to develop the same kind of general proficiency as those who have had more of an acquisition type of experience. So if a child or if a person acquire a language where language is used in the surrounding, so this is acquiring, and they have an edge over the people who learn a language in a classroom setting. So these two type of learning are different from each other. The acquisition of language and the learning of the language.